So we should talk about this really horrific story from City University of London, or City St George's University of London, I should call it with its new name, where a Jewish Israeli professor, Michael Ben-Gad, has been hounded by pro-Palestine students, basically because he, as an Israeli Jew, as pretty much all Israeli Jews do, served in the IDF when he was, back in the 1980s, I think it was, when, back at home. Students have been protesting against him. They've been calling for him to be sacked. There have been people saying he should be beheaded. Tom, what the hell is going on here? I mean, if this isn't anti-Semitism, then I don't know what is.
No, it's a Jew hunt, plain and simple. I mean, they have targeted him purely on the basis of who he is. I mean, to people who are completely oblivious to Israel or completely oblivious to this issue, that maybe they could be convinced by this horrendous propaganda they've been spewing out that he's got blood in his hands, he's some kind of terrorist. But going after an Israeli for the fact that they might have served in the IDF is like singling out a Brit for paying a TV license. It's compulsory. It's one of those. It's a thinly veiled excuse to go after someone because of who they are rather than anything that they've done. As you say, he served back in the 1980s. This is decades before the Israel-Hamas war. This is decades before these Jew-baiting little scroats who are running after him were even born.
Yeah.
It's absolutely absurd. And it's part of a broader pattern, which is that not just since October the 7th, but before as well, it was increasingly very difficult to be certainly Israeli Jewish, but just Jewish, even, British Jewish even.
Yeah.
At a British university. I mean, the number of times that you saw, particularly in London, though not exclusively, invited speakers being hounded out, not because they were representatives of the government or of the embassy necessarily, but just because of the fact that by dint of their service in the IDF, that could be enough of a reason to get up one of these hate campaigns and convince some idiots that you should go and let off flares and chant anti-Semitic slogans at them. So it's really alarming. I mean, he's sticking up for himself. He's refused to go on paid leave. He says the university's been very good with him. There's also been hundreds of academics who have signed a open letter in solidarity with him, which is very encouraging to see. But being Jewish at a British university shouldn't require such kind of balls of steel in order to get in. Yet that's the situation that we found ourselves in, unfortunately. And if you look at those videos as well, I mean, running around disrupting an Israeli Jewish man's lecture, calling him a terrorist, threatening to behead him whilst wearing a balaclava. The fact that these people think they're on the right side of history while doing any of that is baffling.
Yeah.
But it's that combination, that zealotry and that idiocy, which seems to be the kind of feeding ground for this new anti-Semitism.
Yeah, look, this is all part of the wider campaign against Israel. And, we're going to talk about the mighty Aston Villa in a moment. But even today, Ayub Khan came out and said, yeah, actually, now we want to get Israel banned from all sporting events. So literally last week, he was saying it was about the safety of local people and fan safety. And now straight away, he's pivoted to ban everything. And look, I've commented on this conflict for 2 years now. And for the most part, the people I've upset have been Owen Jones and his chums. But the one time I actually got kind of a bit of flack from the Israeli side is when I said, look, at the moment, your international isolation is going to be a bigger threat to you in due course than Hamas, because this campaign is specifically designed to degrade Israel's standing on the international stage to the point where you've got organizations like the Heinrich Jab Foundation, which has indirect links to Hezbollah, is trawling Israeli social media, finding IDF soldiers who are on holiday wherever, and then trying to weaponize local law enforcement against them for war crimes. You've got this sort of stuff happening in London where they're trying to make it impossible to be an Israeli working outside of Israel. And what they're trying to do is create another ghetto. This is what anti-Semites have done throughout history, except this time the ghetto is going to be the state of Israel if they get their way. And the only saving grace is that now the ghetto is very heavily armed. But this is their intention, is to kind of degrade Israel so much on the international stage that Israelis can go in Israel and nowhere else.
I think it's just so important now that people take a stand against this stuff. So if you're in the university sector, as I say, this has been going on for a very long time. There's been about 117% rise in anti-Semitic incidents on campus, according to the Community Security Trust, since October the 7th. But having written a lot about the kind of free speech on campus issue, the particular violence and poison which would attend any kind of Jewish student or pro-Israel event, it was on a scale that, it really was above and beyond even what you saw in relation to the kind of gender critical issue. And it's been that way for a very long time. So I think now is the time for students, academics, administrators even really to stand up, because this is just Jew hatred with a keffiyeh lightly draped over it. And if you're not going to root it out, when? because Andrew's exactly right. This is a longer running campaign. There's a lot of people in academia who've been convinced of the fact that it's totally fine and normal and not at all prejudiced to single out one nation and one nation in particular for academic boycotts and so on and so forth. This has been going on in the academy for a very long time, but we're now seeing the racist fruits of it. So yeah, now is the time to stand up, definitely.
There's a theme that links everything that we're talking about here, from the keffiyeh or the hipster swastika, as I've seen it called, which I quite like. If we look at the grooming gown scandal, if we look at the banning of an Israeli, or an attempted removal of an Israeli professor, it's about stopping your opponents from speaking. It all goes back to this kind of leftist approach where you shut down your opponent because you can't deal with their arguments. Their arguments to you are someone disagreeing with you is so heinously wrong that you're trying to shut them up. And it's a mindset, I think. But Israel has then bolted on to that these decades or centuries of anti-Semitism. And so particularly when it comes to Israel, you're seeing an absolute bin fire when it comes to trying to talk about the topic, and the left trying to just shut you down completely to the point where they want rid of everything related to do with Israel from any country that's not Israel itself.